Hello everyone. I'm getting ready to do another coat of Danish oil on the guitar. The last video I posted, I accidentally said that Friday, November 28th, when in all actuality it was Saturday, November 28th. Today is Sunday, November 29th. I'm going to put another coat of Danish oil on. I do have some fretting supplies ordered. I got some fret wire ordered and some other tools ordered. And that will be the next major part of the build. So while we're waiting to do that, I'll go ahead and add to the finish. I'm going to gently wipe off the excess, going with the grain of the wood. I'm not going to rub it really hard. The wood is taking on such a beautiful shine right now that I don't want to do anything that will interfere with that. So as you can see, the wood is getting darker and darker and darker now with each coat. And the shine is just starting to pop now. The neat thing is it's actually the wood itself that's shining. I mean, the layer of Danish oil is very thin on the top. Well, it's Monday, November 30th, 2020. And I've got a lot of coats of Danish oil on this, and I want to just go ahead and try to buff it up a little bit before I put any more on, just see what it looks like. So I got some buffing wheels, and I'm just going to go dry and nice and light on it, see what happens. Yeah, I think I'm done putting Danish oil on. I'm so happy with how this is looking right now. So here we are. This is now Saturday, December 5th. Back down in here, getting ready to do some more work to the guitar. We're going to be trying, if all goes well today, to finish this. That's a pretty big goal. I really want to get this done because I really want to play it tomorrow. As you saw at the beginning of this video, you can see where I polished up the Danish oil and it looks quite nice. But I also heard about this paste finishing wax. I figured I would give that a try. So I did that on the just a little test on the back of the Tremolo cover. Quite impressed with that. I'm going to start polishing on the back, because that way if there's anything I need to learn, I can learn on the back and not on the front. This comes in different colors. I'm just using natural. And the Danish oil I used on here was just natural. I didn't have any dyes or anything like that in the Danish oil. So I'm just gonna rub it on. The wax has been sitting for a few minutes. I'm going to tear off a piece of fresh towel and wipe the wax off. And I'm immediately seeing a really nice shine coming up. It's very impressive and very beautiful. I'm very glad I went with this. This is exactly how I wanted this guitar to look. I am blown away how nice this looks. I was really careful not to get any of the wax on the fretboard because I'm going to be doing some fret installation today. I don't want any wax interfering with the glue or preventing the frets from sticking or anything goofy like that. This has to be seen up close to be truly appreciated as far as the camera is concerned. And I haven't even run the buffer over it yet. Where it just captures the light. Seeing a few tiny imperfections, but I think that'll be taken care of with the second coat. And with the buffer. Wow. I got the measurements on the nut depth, and it looks like it's 2/32, or 1/16 above the fretboard. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to cut this line with a saw, so when I run the router over it, I have less chance of tear out. Tear out is an issue now. Earlier in the build, I wasn't that worried about it. Now I obviously am. This is the time I get nervous. I'm about to do some routing on the guitar. There's been several hours, several days getting the finish just the way I want it. The guitar has to be locked in nice and secure. The router has to be nice and flat. So I made this jig so whereas the router is going to run perfectly parallel with the body. The body is wrapped in a towel and very carefully clamped down using a piece of pine board to spread the clamping pressure across the body, and then using a piece of oak to spread the pressure across the pine. So I got the router set up, I got the depth set up, and getting ready to start routing out for the nut. Okay, that is very close. So I'm not going to do any more routing. I do want to get a little bit of Danish oil on where I did that routing and clean this up a little bit. Got a little bit of a scratch there. It's not cut away, it's just a scratch. I'm happy with that depth. I'm not going to do anything else yet for this nut until after all the frets are in place. Just trying out my new fret saw that I got from Stu Mac, and it has a stop on it, and I've already aligned it with my fret wire to make sure it's the right depth, because all I need to do is clean out these fret slots, and I don't want to take any chances of scratching that body at all. The fret wire is already angled to the right radius, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut the fret wire just a little bit long and hammer them in. I have a couple brass hammers here. I'm going to try the smaller one first, see how that works. Yeah, that went in nicely. Glue just kind of wicks right down into the fret groove down along that tang, like the guitar just kind of sucks it in. It's time now to get the fretboard rolled over, make it nice and comfortable to play, but I got to get the edges of these frets off. A couple different ways to do this. One way, if I've made this sanding block, or this block to hold a file. File squeezes in there nice and snug like that. And I can simply just run it along the edges of the frets. Before I do that, I'd like to just take a die grinder and knock the edges of the frets down. I have the edges of the frets kind of roughed in. I'll take my tool here. You have to take your time doing this because you really only want to push the file. And you got to be careful. I've done this a few times where this process I've slipped and damaged my frets. I'm using stainless steel fret wire. So it's very hard, but it makes the guitar play really nice. I'm taking the random orbit sander and touching up the neck a little bit. Trying to get it where we can see it. And it's already getting really smooth. I got really fine grit paper on it. Okay, you may be wondering why I went ahead and ran the random orbit sander over all of the edges of the neck like I did. In some cases because some glue got down over the finish and everything. But if you notice, it doesn't look like it's been sanded that much. And that's because, as I stated in earlier videos, the Danish oil, being as thin as it is, penetrates really deep into the wood. So all this grain is sealed. So watch what happens when I just apply just a little bit of Danish oil, just a little dab, over those areas that I just went over. See if I can get it up here where you can really see. So watch what happens. That just all disappears. And that's one of the important things about doing a finish without any stains, is anytime you have to do a little bit extra like that, you just run the Danish oil back over top of it, and all of that work you did, it just disappears and it's ready to go. I don't have a fret rocker. But what I do have is a precision combination square. And it's got a bunch of different sizes where I can bring it up. But this fret here is a little bit high on this side. I've actually gone over the fretboard already a little bit. I was just kind of curious what happened after running the random orbit sander to see if it actually helped, and it actually did. It brought those frets down pretty good. This one's a little bit high on this side, just a tiny bit. I could probably get away with stringing it up right now, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and level it out, get it right. I got just some tiny bit of rocking going on. Nothing I'm overly concerned about. All in all, it's nice and flat. So I just cut a piece of 220 sanding paper I'll put on my radius block. Trying to keep it good and straight. What I do is I run my fingers kind of like this to where they hook onto the edge of the guitar, and that keeps the block nice and straight. Because if it twists a little bit, if it twists like that, it makes the radius off. It's got to be nice and straight so the radius stays nice and true. So running the fingers like this is essential. And I just went through and checked all of the frets, and I have one fret, this little guy right back here, that's not level, but the rest of them are pretty good. So I'm going to work on this one right here, just for a little bit more. That was good. That's nice and solid now. So I have a new toy I've never used before. It's a crowning file. Just leveling the fretboard has taken the roundness off of some of these frets. And that works pretty quick. I'm impressed with that. Another new tool that I got. It's a fret end file, and you can use it to round over the end of the frets. It doesn't take that long. Just takes any of those sharp edges off. And I have something else I'm going to use when I'm done with this to kind of smoothen everything up. A trick I learned from YouTube. This is already the best fret job I've ever done. I've never actually gone all the way into doing this before. As I said in my other videos, I'm not a luthier. Don't claim to be. Just love doing this. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun making things. And when you're done, you have something truly unique. You know, it's like, when I'm playing this guitar, I know that I'm playing the only one like it in the world. The trick I learned from YouTube is these little sanding blocks. You can get them at Lowe's, Home Depot, and any hardware store. And all you gotta do is just lightly run them across the edge like this, and it will smoothen up the edges of your frets. And it's really, really effective. And I can already see it just erasing the little file marker they put on there. Now I'm not worried about getting into the bare wood, because if you've been watching these videos, you know all I'm gonna do is just throw some bandage oil on there, and I never know it even happens. But what's going to happen, this thing is going to be real smooth. It's getting time to mount the nut. The nut still sits a little bit too high, so I've got to go in with a file and very carefully file this down. Just like everything else in this build, it's a slow process. You cannot get in a hurry or I'll ruin it. If I go a little bit too far, it's not that big of a deal because I can always shim it. But if I go in too far that way, then it ruins the whole reason for doing this project. We're going to have to come down quite a bit. So I decided I was going to file from the opposite angle because this side of my file is smooth versus this side. So if I had the headstock to my right, I could use the coarse side of my file and the smooth side is hitting up against the fretboard, and I won't shorten the fretboard at all. So, I have it really close to the depth it needs to be, but I noticed that it's rocking just a little bit, so there's a high spot in there somewhere. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a piece of oak. This top of the file is a lot finer than this part. I'll take the oak and press it on there and just push the file through, and hopefully what that'll do is it'll file down that high spot and keep the file nice and flat. That's pretty good. I'm going to drill all the way through the neck and bring the bolts up from the back because I want as much stability as possible. Use a micrometer as a gauge and get the exact, or closest to the exact size bit as I need to open that hole up. Go. Now I'm going to need to countersink the head of the screw, and we're going to drill nice and slow. It's nice and tight in there. So now I'm going to go out the other hole. So I have a little tool that a friend of mine made for me years ago when I was working in a factory. This little chamfering tool works really good and really quick. Makes quick work of stuff like this. No need to hook it up to a drill. I think I'm going to hit that with a random orbit sander just to smoothen that out a little bit. Let's do a quick little touch up. We'll mount that nut. Touch this up. We'll snug them up some. These tuners are fender locking tuners, and they're staggered in height. It's very satisfying putting this thing together right now. I wanted to get it to where I didn't have to have a string tree. And I've learned that I'm going to have to put a string tree on it. Now I just take a 10mm socket and snug it up a little bit. Doesn't have to be real tight, just snug. I'm at the end game now. I'm putting the strings on. All the electronics and everything are wired up. And I'll do a time lapse on this part, and then we'll save a reveal for the next video.